Good afternoon and welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show. This is a show that is dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're back here on day 25 for Battle of the Bands. I realized that this was supposed to come out this morning. I came home last night. I was kind of tired and I didn't... With these last four, the next four battles, this one and the three coming after it, very tight, and I wanted to give everybody a fair chance here. And when I'm tired like that and I listen to the first album, I'm a little bit tired. By the time I'm through the second album, I'm really tired. Not really fair to the second album, not really fair to people watching the show. They want to see something, some detail here that's good. Okay, and this round also, since it's the battle number 25 in round number 25 on March the 25th. We have the first battle here in the third round. The remaining 8 bands are all pretty strong here. There's no weak sisters, as we would say. I really liked all remaining 8 bands quite a bit. I didn't know how this one was going to go though, because we got really actually 2 very similar bands here, even though they're from completely different sides of the planet. Very similar bands. Rose Tattoo and their self-titled album going up against Mountain and their Climbing album from 1970. That Rose Tattoo album was from 78. The Rose Tattoo album has a big advantage here in that Vonda and Young, who produced the album, produced a very clear and really well produced album, I think. The Mountain album is kind of has a lot of elements that are kind of unclear and kind of murky sounding in some spots. Also kind of, I think it's kind of a little bit more raw. It has that kind of raw distortion to it as well. That can sometimes be an asset, but sometimes that's also a liability, you know. In this case, I think it was a bit of a liability to them. So anyways, we're going to start with the Rose Tattoo album, which was given to me first. So normally what he gives me, the pairings, there's the front pair and the back pair. So the back pair I do second, front pair I do first. So the Rose Tattoo album has continued to rise, and now because I'm into the third round, I'm not really breaking down the instrumentation as much because I've listened to it enough and you've heard enough about that. Now it's just about the tracks and how arranged, how well they are, and how catchy they are, and how much I like them. And at this point, Rose Tattoo has risen to the very top, is in the cream here now. I liked every track on the album. A couple tracks a little bit weaker, but for the most part, I like them all. Really catchy. All their tunes are pretty catchy. Lots of good, solid riffing. There's some tracks that have that nice steel guitar play, and it's not overdone. You know, like some songs, really a lot of steel guitar playing in some bands, which is okay, and it depends on the track. But for Rose Tattoo, his use of the steel guitar, he limits to certain aspects of the song, and it's very tastefully done. I really like the way they add their steel guitar parts. The vocalist is really catching on with me here. He has that very Australian sound to his voice. You can't tell he's Australian. Sounds a little like Southern rock, a lot of this. But he has that nasal thing singing through this part of his face, which is reminiscent of quite a few Australian bands. The other thing the Australian bands do, and this one in particular does it very well, is they do that kind of vocal storytelling, where they're telling a story while they're singing. They do it really well too. It's I don't know if it comes from the way they do music in Australia. Maybe this is something that has developed in Australia. I'm not sure, but I've noticed it on a couple of the different groups. This one doing it among the best of those groups. Really good. What else can I say about it? Yeah, a lot of high energy here, a lot of heavy riffing, a lot of that southern feeling, that southern American rock feel, or I guess you would call it Australian rock feel. I don't know what you want to call it, but definitely have that in there. And again, I like the vocalist quite a bit. So my three, I'll just go because I had 3 songs I gave 7s to this time. I don't know if I did that in the last time. I don't think so. I think only the Butcher and Eddie got a 7. But a couple songs have really risen here for me. The opening track, Rock and Roll Outlaw, real catchy tune. Got that kind of southern bluesy sound to it, but it's got such a rocky sound as well. Just really like the overall feel for that song. There's a nice opening to a great album, I think. Then you got Nice Boys, really good, solid, fast-paced track with some fantastic vocals. The next track is another song I like a lot on this album, Fast Eddie and the Butcher, or Butcher and Fast Eddie. Kind of that storytelling. It's a bluesy kind of rocky song, but it tells that story. It really grabs your interest. It's hard not to listen to what's going on, you know. So it's such a fantastic tune. Kind of reminiscent of nothing like, they're totally different stories, but very reminiscent of that AC/DC song. What's the name of it? The Jack. Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking of the Jack. Yeah, very reminds me a lot of that song. The other track I like quite a bit is Remedy. Very fast-paced, high-paced riff here. High energy song, real catchy, hard to ignore, great tune. Some of the other great tunes on here. TV, I like that a lot. Stock on You, I like that a lot. Very heavy riffing, some nice slide guitar on this as well. Tramp, another really kind of fast-paced, heavy song with to me, it has some perfect vocals on it. So it's just really good. Yeah, so overall, it's such a solid album. Excellent production, excellent sound. It doesn't. The good part about their production is that although it's produced so you can hear it really well, it doesn't seem to interfere with the kind of raw energy, kind of gritty kind of guitar, garage sound that they have a little bit of. They don't have a lot of it. They do have some of it. And so yeah, just a great album, I think. Among my favorites. Definitely risen a lot since my first hear to it. This is a really solid band. I like their logo too. That kind of rose with the snake-like venom-looking things going on there. Yeah, great album. The Mountain album now. Going on to the Mountain album. This is, of course, a classic album. Well known by many people as being one of the great southern heavy rock albums of its time period. I like it a lot. Of course, the opening track, Mississippi Queen, is a classic song. One of the great classic songs of its time. Some real heavy guitar here. It got that kind of really kind of bluesy but heavy sound to it. Yeah. Probably the best song on either album, I think. From this point on, it's a little bit tighter. You got One More 7, which is Never My Life. Fast-paced, heavy guitar riff. Really well done vocals. There's a lot of similarities between the two bands. They both have that southern bluesy part to their music. They both have that heavy riffing. A lot of these songs could be on either's album. The difference for me for the two albums is the keyboards. There's a lot more keyboards on Mountains Climbing. I don't even think there's any on Rose Tattoo. I don't recall hearing any, and I didn't look up the instrumentation, so I don't know if there is. There's quite a bit of that on the Mountain album. Starts on that kind of, I kind of noticed there's a lot on that second track. Thanks for imagining an imaging western. I think that's what it's called. Oh, sorry, theme for an imaging western. A lot of keyboards on this. I find they're very distorted, and I find it distracting for the song. There's a few like that. The keyboards again, distortion on that Silver Paper song. I like the harmonica part on Layered, the acoustic opening with some vocals and very harmonica part. I like that a lot. To My Friend, the instrumental, which comes out like probably on the second side of the album. maybe on the first side, I'm not sure. I think it would be on the second. It would kind of be the opening song for the second side. Very acoustic, harmonic part. I like that a lot. This is really catchy kind of opening to the track. One of their better songs, I think. Sitting on a Rainbow, another heavy kind of drum guitar part, heavy riff, very southern rocky song. Like that a lot too. But then there's some weaker songs too, like the last track, the piano opening, slow. Well, it's not as good of a song. A little bit too distorted. Really hard to follow sometimes. Same with the Laird, even though it's got that nice harmonic part in it. It still is very kind of distorted in some ways. Yazur's Farm. This is a good track, but again, a little bit too much keyboards for my liking. So I think the keyboards for a Mountain are a bit of a distraction. But it's not discommon for a lot of American rock bands to have that kind of Hammond organ guitar part in their music. I personally don't like the Hammond organ with the hard rock bands. I don't mind it with the use with the progressive bands, but on the hard rock bands, I really find it distracting and not appealing. I guess, and as much as I hate to admit this, I have to agree. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I agree with Gene Simmons on this part that keyboards should not be heard on hard rock songs in a lot of cases. There are some exceptions. Rainbow's use of keyboards on the Rainbow Rising album is stunning. It's a masterpiece on that album, but that's few and far between. Anyways, so Mountain, this is a good album, a strong album. I just think Rose Tattoo album is better. I just think it's a better album overall. It's more enjoyable. It's a lot more catchy. It's risen up. The songs are better written, I think. Well, maybe not better written, but a better listen to, I guess is the word. They don't have that distortion there. It's a clear sound. It's not as murky. So the production really plays a part here on this battle here, and I think Rose Tattoo is going to win this battle. Not by a lot, but by enough. And Mountain, a good album, but they just met a band that was very similar to them that just did everything a little bit better in a lot of ways. So Rose Tattoo is going to go on to the next round, to the semifinals, and Mountain is going to be finished for this tournament. Unfortunately, a good album. I enjoyed it a lot. Definitely an album I'd like to own, but just not good enough to beat the Rose Tattoo album, which, you know, this band Rose Tattoo is really coming forward for me and definitely going to be one of those Australian bands. I'm going to do my top 25 Australian bands very soon, and this is going to be one of those bands up at the top of the cream of the crop. Anyways, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and subscribe. This will come out immediately after I finish recording it, and I do apologize for it. I know some of you are looking for it at 8 a.m. Sometimes I can do them at 8 a.m., but I don't want to, at this point in time, I don't want to do something at 8 a.m. just to get it out at 8 a.m. And I didn't really do it justice. And so I feel like this is more of a justice thing. So it's a little bit longer of a video. The shorter videos is because I'm rushing them a bit, and I don't really like to do that. So anyways, so Rose Tattoo wins, goes on to round, I guess it would be round number 4, the semifinals, and Mountain just loses by not a great margin anyways. So I hope, like I said, please subscribe. It's much appreciated, and this video will come out immediately after I'm done here. So have yourself a good day. Take care.